Hello everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about, today and every Tuesday we go live here on YouTube, on Facebook at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific? It's been a day. And we talk about all things CFO and advisory related. So today we are going to talk about some of the questions that CFOs answer. And why I want to talk about this is because it will help you determine whether or not you are interested in answering these types of questions. And that will help inform you about whether or not CFO and advisory services might be right for you. So before we jump in, I would encourage you to hit that like button. That way you're notified of any new content we drop, every time we go live, all that fun stuff. If you have any questions during the live or after the live, questions, comments, go ahead and drop them below the video and I will get those answered for you. All right, let's hop into this. So one of the big questions, there's a few questions that CFO advisors answer, but one of the big ones is, should we focus on making money or being profitable? I'm sorry, making money or generating revenue. So do we want to focus on top line growth at all costs, even if it's maybe unprofitable? Maybe we're trying to capture market share. And so we are just wanting to grab all of the sales that we can, knowing that it's potential, there is a potential that some of those sales might be unprofitable, meaning that some of those sales might, we might be losing money on some of those sales. So for example, when you go into the grocery store and you have what we call a loss leader. So maybe that is, I don't know, let's say a gallon of milk. The gallon of milk is priced really cheap because they want you to come into the store and buy a lot of other things that are, excuse me, that are more expensive. They know if you come in to buy one cheap thing, that's why they run those weekly circulars, those weekly sales. If you come in to buy that one cheap thing, you're likely to buy other things. So we need to understand, what is the goal of the business? Are we trying to grow revenue as big, as fast as possible? Or are we trying to make as much money as we can? Sometimes those are the same, oftentimes they are not. So we need to prioritize which of those the business is looking for. Now, another question we often get is, excuse me, sales look great, but cash is tight. And a lot of business owners feel that it is, if sales are going good, cash should be going good, because they, on some level, think those are very, very similar. And they are similar, but they mean two totally different things. I mean, excuse me. There we go. That's better. You can have sales that are going gangbusters, but let's say that you have a lot of people who buy on credit. Like, let's say you're selling your product to another store. Typically, there's something we call terms, and they have a certain amount of time to pay you for that merchandise. Sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes it's 60 days, sometimes it's 90 days. And what happens is that you've made that sale, so your sales look good, your revenue looks great, but you haven't gotten the cash in the door yet. So answering the questions of, okay, why that is, how can we stop that from happening, is super important. How long can we operate on the cash we need? This is another really great question that CFOs answer, because, you know, cash is king for a small and medium-sized business. Cash is where it's at. And if we only have, let's say it costs, here's a good example. Let's say it costs us $10,000 a month to operate our business. Let's say we have $50,000 in our checking account. So you would take that 50,000 divided by 10,000, and you would have 5 months to operate with the cash that we have, assuming no new cash is coming in. So business owners want to know how long we can operate the business with the cash that we have. All right, another question we get all the time is, what should we do if? I'm going to put ... right there. So what you should do if, what we should do if we lose our biggest customer? What should we do if we decide to hire someone? What should we do if our business is hit with a 25% tariff? What should we do if we decide to increase price 3%? So answering those everyday business questions, trying to help business owners determine the right path for the business, make the right decision, because we want them to make the best decision possible before they have to make it. We want to see the impact of that decision before it's made. Now, what parts of the business are the most profitable? This is a very common question. I mean, especially if you're selling multiple items like retail stores, or multiple services, maybe like a chiropractor or a dentist or something like that. When you are in business, there are certain things that you sell that are very profitable. You're making a lot of money per item. And then there are other times that you're not making much money at all. And that is a bit difficult to determine, okay, should we get rid of the products that aren't making us money, that like the ones that we are making money on? Should we stop producing those products, stop selling those products? Or are they what I was referring to in question 1, which was, are they a loss leader? And we are using that to get people into our store, into our business. So understanding what parts of the business are the most profitable. Next, we have, can we afford to hire? So often, a lot of times are the same. Often businesses come to us and say, hey, I need another salesperson, but can we really afford that right now? Or are we hiring too far ahead for what our current business looks like? So think of it like this. A salesperson, for example, we want them to make enough sales to earn their income. So typically that is, we want at least 2%, ideally 3%. Not 3%, 3 times. We want to make sure that they are generating enough sales to pay for their revenue 3 times over. So we want to make sure that is feasible, that is the right kind of person to hire, that we can afford to take that salary and benefits hit, that we can afford to have that person as an additional person on the floor of our shop. So that is one. This question comes up somewhat often. It is, I'm looking to sell in 3 years. What can I do now to get the best price then? So what practices do we need to put into place to ensure that we're going to have the best price? Do we need to really hit the gas on growth? So we need to put money into marketing and salespeople. Or do we need to protect profit at all cost? And that means that maybe we need to look into cutting expenses. Maybe we're planning to seller finance this sale. And so we need to have some cash built up. So lots of different things to consider there. What happens if we lose our biggest customer? This is huge. We want to know in advance what happens in certain scenarios. So in this scenario, we're losing our biggest customer. What does that mean for our financial statements? Does that mean that we're automatically out of business? Does that mean that we need to cut staff immediately? What does that look like? And what is the plan to replace that revenue if possible? What happens if we increase price? So if we increase price, it's somewhat likely that we could potentially sell less. And what does that look like as far as, okay, if we increase price 3%, let's say, how many fewer units of our product are we going to sell? Because, people don't like price increases, but sometimes they have to be done. All right, which KPIs actually matter? KPIs, key performance indicators, are the things that drive your business. So revenue, cost per, the selling price per item, how many people you have on your floor, number of employees. It could be something like, if you're in construction, the number of jobs you have coming up. Like, do you have enough to sustain that month's expenses? So understanding what KPIs matter to the business that you're in. Because every single business has different KPIs. For construction, it's a lot about project costing and the timing of projects. In retail, it's more about the average order value, how many items and the total value of that order. If they order 2, 3, 5 things, the total order value. Usually we look at an average. So things like that. Are we on track to hit our goals? That's a really great one, because we need to make sure that we are on track to not only hit our goals, but show our value as CFOs. So we need to make sure that we are on track, that we're not only tracking our progress, but that we're making tweaks and changes along the way if needed. What needs to change to hit our goals? Like I just said, our job is to make sure that the business hits their goals. And we can only do that if businesses are willing to do what it takes to hit those goals. Maybe we lost a big client and now we have to unfortunately cut headcount. Maybe we need to install cash forecasting to make sure that we're hitting a goal. Maybe we need to collect accounts receivable earlier. So things of that nature. Should we spend money on this or that? That is a question that often plagues business owners. Should we buy a piece of equipment or give the staff a bonus? Should we spend a little bit more on material to make our product, for example, t-shirts, let's say? Or should we use the cheaper material? And while we might save money, there might be quality issues. Do we want to deal with that? So really understanding, if we have a choice between X and Y, what is the correct answer? What helps us get to the business's goal? And then finally, what if we do nothing? So a lot of times we have to think about what actions to take, but sometimes the answer is to do nothing. And when is that? And how is that beneficial? So that is just some of the questions that CFO advisors answer. I hope that really helps you understand, are those the kinds of questions that you would like to answer for business owners? If so, I would encourage you to join my upcoming Game Changer Challenge. It is happening on Saturday. You can find the link below. And yeah, if you have any questions about what we talked about today, I would encourage you to go ahead and leave a comment, post a question. I'll get those answered for you even when we're done with this live. And that will be it for today. I hope to see you next Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific for another episode of the CFO Insider. Have a great week, everyone.